and welcome to Saving People, Queering Things, the supernatural podcast where we were there. Where were you?
That delivery was spectacular.
I'm no Jensen Ackles, but I do try.
Really thought you were about to say, I'm Noah.
And I'm August.
No.
Wrong character.
Today, we are pulling up to Season 6, Episode 20, The Man Who Would Be King. I'm your host, August. My pronouns are they, them.
I am Elena, pronouns she, they.
And I'm No, pronouns he, him. No, I'm just kidding. And I'm Noah, pronouns he, him.
Noah, has anyone ever called you as a nickname?
No, people don't giving me nicknames much, ever.
That's kind of sad.
Yeah, you're telling me.
I feel like you're the kind of person that particularly would enjoy a good nickname.
Yes, absolutely agree.
If you could pick a nickname that we could call you now.
See, that doesn't count.
No, it has to come up organically. We have to bestow it upon him.
The great curse of Noah Browse. The closest I've got is 1 year at summer camp. One of the counselors figured out that my middle initial is C, and so they called me NC Hammer for 4 days and then gave up on it very quickly. It's the closest I've ever gotten, and I didn't particularly love that one, so I didn't try to keep it.
Well, my question today for the two of you is a really simple one, and it is, what is a favorite line from this episode? Because there's some bangers, and I want to know which one you thought of first, top of your head.
Honestly, top of my head, it's sort of a cop out because we've had it before, but I'm really glad we got "Hey Ass Butt" back again in the flesh.
The first, if we're going with what first popped into our brains, it is the absolute literary classic sound banger. Freedom is the length of rope, and God wants you to hang yourself.
Okay.
I thought that Elena was going to go with teaching freedom to angels is like teaching poetry to fish.
Yes.
Yeah, you should have.
More than 10 seconds to think about it. Yes, because when he said that line, I was like, I forgot how much I love this line.
That was a really solid line. I do have that in my notes.
But freedom is the length of rope, and God wants you to hang yourself with it. What?
Oh, yeah.
If you were to say this is, an iconic line from, the Iliad, or this is a line from the CW Supernatural, I would not place that quote as having been on the CW Supernatural.
No, neither would I. Well, it's like that quiz, that quiz that we did several years ago about what literary quotes versus supernatural quotes.
That was literally
that one was definitely on there.
We ever spoke was doing that quiz.
I can't find that quiz. If anyone ever finds there's a quiz that's like supernatural quotes, is it supernatural or is it from a literary classic? And it was this beautiful quiz, actually very challenging.
Okay.
And it was very, very funny because Supernatural just has this ability to say things that it absolutely has no right to say as a CW show.
Gay love could pierce the veil of death and save the day.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a half a dozen quotes from this episode alone that could fit in there.
Yeah. This episode is full of really great lines.
Yeah. Which we are going to get to.
Yes.
After we catch y'all up. So if you haven't watched Supernatural recently, here is what you've missed on the road so far. So Noah is going to recap the show up to this point. You let me know when you're ready and I'll count you in.
I think I'm ready. It's going to be a little freeform, but we're cool with it.
Into it.
We love that.
3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, so the two brothers, they hunt monsters. They die, sometimes they come back. No big deal. One of them, the older brother, falls in love with an angel, and they have their adoptive father who is their real biological father, and he's better than any other father, Bobby. And they go around, they start hunting stuff. They're doing great. They accidentally cause the apocalypse. Then they go and stop it from happening, and they throw Lucifer and Michael in the cage. And then Sam dies in that event, and then he comes back without his soul, and then they get his soul back while they're hunting down alpha monsters. And then they realize that Crowley might not be dead.
Nice.
Oh, we got 2 paws. We got 2 paws now.
Reaching up for Dad.
Choke me a little bit.
That's so funny. Noah's cat is just got 2 paws up. Noah's cat is out of frame, but their paws are up. I gotcha.
Just so you know, I'm here for you, and I'm spreading out my body heat to make you as hot as possible during this recording in Texas in the summer. Woohoo! Or some might say, yeehaw!
Some might, but I won't.
Not
today. Now, it's Elena's turn to recap this week's episode. Are you ready, Elena?
No, we're gonna go Chaos Edition. Let's fucking go.
Let's fucking go.
Okay, Wolverine and Deadpool.
Ready when you are.
All right. 3, 2, 1, go.
Zoom in on Castiel having feelings and emotions. He is going to give us a retelling of the events of season 6, and those events are that he didn't trust his boyfriend enough to tell him that he needed help, and he probably should go to therapy to deal with that. But instead, he's dealing with the demon in charge of hell, who basically was like, "Hey, we're gonna make hell into a day job where you stand in line all day and things suck." And yeah, then they realize, oh no, Cass has betrayed us, and Dean is sad about it because it's his boyfriend, and then things happen. I'm so sorry. That was the most meandering one I have done in quite some time.
You're good.
I need to re-record that.
That was solid.
That's great.
So
something
sorry.
about the souls might have helped, but
Oh yeah, minor stuff.
I lost
you got the important stuff. You got the important stuff.
several
You
times.
got the like ex-boyfriend moping.
It's this whole episode. The whole point of this episode is pining boyfriends.
Facts.
It's like, man, communicate. Please communicate.
Please.
Even one time.
Try your hardest. And then the one time that okay, sorry, we'll get into that later. But
Yeah. Okay. But before we get fully into it, we are going to pick some music to accompany us on our journey. Here is what we have for this week's episode mixtape. Elena, do you want to start?
No, I want you to start because the song you picked is giving me feelings and emotions.
Okay, that's fine.
You've already bragged about how yours is going to give us feelings and emotions.
I know, but
so
this is like in my top 10 favorite songs of all time.
Oh, I went into the vault for this one, and by the vault, I mean specifically the Castiel playlist that I've been making since like 2014.
beautiful.
AKA the playlist that is just apparently Elena's brain.
Oh, I need to send you this playlist. It's a good playlist. I'm very proud of my Team Free Will playlists.
If this is your content, then I'm very much on board. So
yeah, I'll give you a little sneak peek of it sometime. But yeah, the song I've chosen today is Icarus by Destiel. Just like, it feels like a Cass song really strongly to me. The idea of like flying too close to the sun, you know, Icarus's life, it's only just begun. Like this whole concept of like this angel that's kind of taken on more human qualities, but is also just like careening towards destruction at all times.
Careening towards destruction.
It's Castiel. I mean, is he not careening towards destruction right now?
He is, and that's just an excellent usage of language that I appreciate.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I try.
Top notch.
So yeah, Icarus by Destiel. Also a concert that I went to. Like I went to see them play. Probably back in like 2016 at this like small little venue in Vancouver, and they were incredible. We stood in line in the like pouring rain for like 3 hours to get in, and they were great. They
was
played
that the Bad Blood tour or Wild World?
I think it was Bad Blood.
Okay, cool.
Ugh.
It was good. They played
was the soundtrack of the years that it came out for me.
Yes. I have a few Destiel songs on Supernatural related playlists because I listened to a lot from that in that era.
And
they were sort of popular.
We know you can be trusted.
Honestly, Bastille hasn't missed in most of their albums. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. It still brings me back. I listen to stuff from there and I'm like, oh, I'm back in,
late high school?
Early college.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was gonna say
That's
that was like
fine.
immediately post college for me. So
yeah, which makes it early college for me. Like very, very tail end of high school, beginning of college years. Like I discovered them my grad year, like high school grad year.
well, my song pick is from before any of us were born.
Nice.
Whoa,
Go for it. Give it to us.
If you'd like me to give a segue. So my pick for this week is "How Do You Mend a Broken Heart" by Al Green.
Okay.
It's that one where it's what makes the world go round. It's like really good, and some of the lyrics are, "How can you mend this broken man? How can a loser ever win? Somebody please help me mend my broken heart and let me live again."
Oof.
Yeah, I just want to live again, baby.
That'll do it.
Somebody tell me how can a loser ever win?
Oof.
Yeah, it's just
that's fine.
big this episode vibes.
Yeah.
So I actually, now that Elena's given their recommendation, I have 2 suggestions this week.
Ooh.
I think they should both be in the mixtape.
I think they've gotta be.
They'll feature in some time.
I'm sorry, but
I'm delighted.
you'll appreciate one of them at least. Elena's recommendation really brought to mind "How Do You Sleep" by Sam Smith.
Ooh.
which really, resonates on that line of how do you sleep when you lie to me all these nights? And yeah. So that's how
we just said we're going to come for Elena's whole neck.
I think so. I'm sorry. But it really sums up how Dean refuses to believe that Castiel could potentially be lying to him. And then once he realizes the betrayal on his face is evident. It's
Jensen Ackles, the actor that you are.
An icon and a legend.
Walls.
Yes. But the original song I had picked is Wake Up by Run River North.
Oh, damn, Noah.
Yeah. And this one, the chorus
good
resonates
choice
around the line. Wake up. You're asleep. Come smell the roses. Come take your time. Dead for a moment. Set heaven on fire. Same life, same skin. Wear it out. I hope it fits.
Ooh, good. So, it's a good pick.
Castiel's dead for a moment, and then he comes back and he sets heaven on fire, and then he needs to wake up to realize that he's been lying to his beloved and shouldn't be, but it's a little bit more positive spin on it in this song. It's like, hey, everything's falling to shit, but it's fine. Wake up. It's a good pick.
Supernatural in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Everything's going to shit. Let's have a party.
Beautiful.
Nice. After that stellar mixtape, it is time for this week's hunt, and today we are pulling up to Season 6, Episode 20, The Man Who Would Be King, through the theme, one of our most loved themes, of faith.
Some could say it all comes back to this theme.
This theme, I was so excited to put this theme for this episode because, hot damn, let's get into it.
It's been challenged the entire episode.
Yeah.
The whole episode centers around the concept of
in
faith.
God.
Yeah, faith in God, faith in your beloved, faith in who you can trust.
The forces of good and evil.
Faith in the concept of free will.
Faith in the concept of freedom in general. Like
the question of who to have faith in is maybe never been quite this murky in Supernatural so far. And that's really interesting, where we are at in Season 6, post-apocalypse. It was always kind of it was oh, we should have faith in the angels, and then you realize, oh, actually maybe not. But faith has always sort of been, I don't know,
a challenging topic.
Yeah, and this is muddying the waters quite a bit.
Yeah.
Because we're getting a character that we're supposed to really kind of trust,
but we're also getting even more representation from Raphael, showing that he is also an angel and also should not be trusted because he's trying to do bad things with his angel powers.
Oh, yeah. What's the line he says there? He says, it's God's will. He's talking about restarting the apocalypse, and he says it's God's will. And Cass says, how do you know? And Raphael says, because it's what I want. Okay. It's God's will because it's what I want. Whoa.
Yeah.
Are you a Bible Belt Christian in America? What is this?
I know. I think this one that line hit so hard for me because, I feel like I've spent a lot of my life around people who are like, this is God's will. And their reason for knowing does boil down to, if they're being honest, it's they're because I want it.
Yeah. And obviously God would only want me to want the things that I should have.
And I'm like, what if you just wanted something? What if you just wanted something and it didn't have to be God's will?
I feel like you're forgetting the part in the Bible where humans are selfish. That's been well established. I don't.
And also the wanting things doesn't have to be bad.
No.
But being dishonest about them or trying to be holier than thou about them, that part's the bad part.
Very much agree.
Anyway, stalled out on that topic, but we'll come back to it. Noah, first reactions from this episode. Noah sent us a message in our group chat this morning after seeing the episode that said, and I quote, "Oof, I just finished the app and wow, there was a decent amount of all caps writing in my notes."
Yeah.
So tell us about some of that all caps writing now.
Okay, so if I'm summing it up to just the all cap stuff with a few of my just minor reactions, anytime we get a Cass flashback to his millennia long lifespan as an angel, I'm there for it and I'm all into it. And then he looks up and he says, "Let me tell you everything," while staring directly into the camera or staring directly into my soul as I'm watching. What the fuck?
Implied in this, at the end of the episode, we find out he's praying.
Yes.
So the fact that he's staring directly at the camera in what turns out
God.
to be what?
Okay. What?
So what does that mean for us as the viewer watching that felt that connection?
Who's in charge of the narrative? Who's in charge of this narrative?
Especially when we factor in the Ghostfacer effect. And maybe God wants to tone down the story that he's putting out, that he's watching and editing and processing and releasing to the public, which is us in this world.
Right. Like there's so much about who's doing the things in this episode. Like there's a moment where Cass is talking to the angels like in a flashback, and they're like, "You're back. It was God. Like, wasn't it God that brought you back?"
You're God's chosen.
And Cass says, "No, it was the Winchesters." Like, okay,
whoa,
okay.
whoa.
And
Like,
I do, on the flip side of that, I love the moment with Crowley where he mentions, he's like, like, what about Azazel and Lucifer and Lilith and all? He's like, am I the only one that's not going to like underestimate these motherfuckers?
Denim-clad, oh shit, what is it called? Denim-clad nightmares. Yep.
Long live the denim-clad nightmares.
We're considering the ghost faces effect. He's saying those fucking denim-clad nightmares.
Yeah,
like,
maybe even something worse than nightmares if we're these denim-clad motherfuckers. I think is how he's gonna. Yeah.
Denim-clad motherfucking nightmares.
Okay, yeah.
I still like the idea of nightmares in there because it's like denim-clad motherfucking nightmares.
I respect that.
If I ever get to meet Mark Shepard.
Oh, yes. I want to ask him all the times that he wanted to curse in his lines, like when he felt Crowley would have cursed. That would be so good.
So every line?
Just his introduction too, when he's calling them a homophobe. Would have at least
five more instances of the word fuck and would be 100% hornier, which is hard to do because...
And he's pretty horny in this episode. My goodness.
In every episode, I feel like. But I feel like
this episode, he's on the top of his game.
That could be a moment why he likes his role in Firefly as Badger a little bit more, because he can say like flarking and, space curse words that aren't technically curse words, but you know what he means there,
Yeah. In Supernatural, they're like, can you say frickin'? And he's like, I guess.
Will not.
He's like, I guess I'll commit to like saying heck. No,
he just doesn't agree, and that's fine.
He did say heck.
Mm-hmm. Crowley is it's so interesting, the push and pull of this episode, because like on the one hand, like Crowley's the villain, but
is he?
He's also one of the top 3 most likable people in this episode. So like,
right, like what? Like okay, so, like Cass. Noah, like how are you feeling about like this episode? How is it feeling in terms of like how the season has gone? Like you said some interesting things a couple episodes ago.
It explains so much about how Cass has behaved this whole season. And when he immediately comes back, it's like early on in the season, I want to say the first 4 episodes, and he's like, yeah, so there's a civil war in heaven. He doesn't say, hey, I started the civil war because Raphael is being a douchebag and trying to take control.
That tidbit out.
Yeah, he left that out a little bit, which I feel like the brothers still would have supported him if he was like, I started a civil war to give all the angels freedom. They would have been right there with him.
This is the thing, is Cass gets so lost in this like he does not, as much as like the Winchesters have faith in him, he doesn't have he gets caught in not having quite enough faith in them early on in this story, and then gets so far that he can't walk it back.
And then we even see that in like his last conversation with him in the episode, because he says to Dean, you're just a man and I'm an angel. Like even now, after all that's happening, like he still has that bit of I don't want to call it doubt, but
he's underestimation.
Yeah, and it's almost like he doesn't, I think at that point in the episode, he's gone so far at that point. Like he's so deep into this that he's like, I don't know how to undo this, and I'm not sure you can help me undo this. And so like, you're just a man.
Even though earlier in the episode, he's threatening Crowley with undoing it all. He's like, I'll take this all down, no doubt. But then once he's with the people that he trusts to be vulnerable around, he's like, I don't know how I can. Like, he's just putting on that show for Crowley. Like,
well, I think because in that moment, he's being confronted with the people that he cares about. And so he's like, he's not in that defense mode around them. He's in that vulnerable mode. Versus when he's around Crowley, he's like, I will fuck you up if you touch my boyfriend. Like,
well, and with Crowley too, he's like gotta keep on this air of like, I'm a powerful angel and what I'm doing is right. And with the boys and Bobby, he's like, I don't know if what I'm doing is right. I'm actually starting to realize that maybe it isn't, but I also don't know how to fix it. And so he kind of like a little bit of that slips, but he's also like one of Cass's like kind of flaws in the show has always been this like a little bit of like arrogance.
Yeah.
Of like, I'm an angel, so I must know better. I must be on the right side of things.
Especially when you're an angel who got popped by Lucifer and then brought back by God, potentially.
It gives you a little bit of
a complex.
Yeah.
We don't know any, like, at this point, the only being that could bring Cass back would have been God. So we're kind of under the assumption that it was God, because what else was
the
it?
narrative is too. But like, it also, the line where Dean says to him that we can fix this, and he goes, it's not
broken.
And he knows it is. He knows it is. Like, I think that that's him trying to cling to, like, I didn't do anything wrong, or like, I'm not quite ready to admit that something has gone horribly wrong. And so he's like, it's not broken. And Dean's like, buddy, like, I don't know what you can say it's not.
Do you have? Like,
right. Like, we have to acknowledge it's broken. We cannot fix it unless we first acknowledge that it's broken.
Yeah. But I think that harkens back to how broken that Castiel is in this episode when he is listening in on the people that he quote unquote trusts the most. And he's listening in on them and trying to hear what they're thinking about behind closed doors and when he's not around. And then he overhears them refer to him as a Superman, a broken Superman, and they need their kryptonite. And then,
like, if he's gone dark side, if he's Superman that's gone dark side, like, that's the reference of, like, this powerful being that's maybe gone dark side.
And then he comes back and he's being their whole buddy, and he cleaned up the demon kills and all that. And he's like,
and he's like kind of fixing their mistrust because they've been mistrustful. And then he comes in and kind of fixes it. He covers his tracks so well.
Of that line of wonders never cease.
Wonders never cease. So good. Such a good line.
Talk about faith. Like, he gets them to restore, like, his faith in them is restored and their faith in him is restored.
And then he fucks it all up by trying to relate to Dean with his pop culture references. He's hey, this is something that I know you care about, so I'm going to try to make that joke. And I know it applies because I heard y'all say it earlier. But he doesn't say that part.
But obviously, he's not quite human enough to have connected the dots that, like, they will remember. He doesn't remember, which is so human of him. Like, it's so human of him to forget that they'll figure that out.
I feel like it's not the group that figures it out, because I feel like Bobby and Sam let that moment kind of go over their heads and they're like, oh, okay, wow. So Castiel is really ingraining himself with the humans. But Dean knows exactly what that means. And the way his face falls.
Right.
Because Dean is the one that's taught Cass pop culture. Since season 4, Dean has been teaching Cass about pop culture. He's been making references. He's been making Cass watch movies with him. Like, Cass knows everything he knows about pop culture because of Dean. So of course Dean is the one that's like
that's a theory for another episode,
sorry.
But like, that's why Cass, like, Dean knows immediately that the only way that Cass would know that is from Dean.
And then he says that, like, so I guess we don't need to stock up on our kryptonite, huh? But he says it with such a dejected voice where his facial expression is still, like, kind of positive because he knows that Cass needs it.
My boyfriend gets the reference.
And then
he's
Dean
like, I did good. He's like, I'm building trust.
Dean's like,
and Dean's like,
you're fucking done. Like,
Dean's entire world has just collapsed because Dean is the one. Like, Sam and Bobby have been way more suspicious for longer. Dean has been the one, like, again, like Cass said, trying hard to be loyal with every instinct telling him otherwise. Dean has been going against his instincts, and Dean's instincts are usually pretty good.
Yep.
He's been going against his instincts to have faith in Cass.
Yep.
And then it all crumbles in a second.
Oh, okay. Sorry. The other all caps notes that I had to continue on that vibe. The reveal mid flashback where Castiel explodes and we see the little blood specifically, like, flying through the air. That was a really cool shot and they did really great there. I'm proud of them for that. And then the reveal that Castiel was the one who pulled Sam out of perdition. Okay. Oh,
right. Yeah, you didn't know that. We've been like, I've been shutting up about that.
So good.
That was
so
really
long.
funny.
You did great.
Is that I did great in not mentioning that because I forgot that was a fact of the season.
Oh my god, it was so good. The little
that's another knife in the back of, like,
Cass not only knew that it was there, he was there for the whole year, but Cass was the one who did it.
Well, and knowing that now, you know that when they realize that Sam doesn't have a soul, Cass's like reaction to that is oh shit, I fucked up so bad.
Oh,
like, he's realizing, if you go back and watch those scenes when when he's investigating and he's like
he sticks
figuring
the hand
out what's
in,
wrong with Sam,
he
sticks the hand and tries to go away, like,
Sam.
whoop, and he's like, oh shit. He's like, I brought his brother back without a soul. Like,
That
and I
is
didn't realize,
whole
for a
different
whole
spin.
year. Like, he didn't
Shit.
realize for a whole year.
And then the heartbreak, though, really comes in with Sam.
When Cass tells him, and he says, I'm the one that brought you back from perdition. What?
Because he thinks that'll gain him favor. He thinks that will help fix it. Like, Cass misreading
And
what will help the Winchesters believe him.
And then
so
Sam, yeah, and then Sam is like, okay, so you brought me back without a soul on purpose? Like, what the fuck was that about? Oof.
And
That
really,
Cass looks devastated after that accusation.
Yeah, is how Cass says, how could you think that? Because I think he genuinely is like, has reached this depth of sadness where he's like, oh my God, like he thinks that I would do that to him.
I think Cass I think that's the moment where he realizes how badly he's destroyed the trust.
Yep. It wasn't when the circle of fire lit up around him. That was like, whoa, hey, maybe it's a misunderstanding, guys.
Yeah, I can talk my way out of this. I can explain. If I explain what happened, they'll believe me. And I think like when he realizes he messed up with Sam, which is really interesting because like he realizes that his Dean's trust, because he messed up with Sam, that's like
heavily fractured
crucial.
when you fuck over your boyfriend's sibling. Heavily fractured.
And like in considering your boyfriend's sibling, like who your boyfriend has like been parentified and like basically raised.
Yeah.
A huge factor there.
And you've done it by like consorting with Crowley.
The devil.
Which like gives very big like cheating, like
your ex that you shouldn't be worried about type shit.
It gives very big like you cheated on me with him.
Yeah.
Like with him, like that's the vibe that Dean kind of has, like of like not only did you betray us, but you betrayed us with Crowley.
Yep.
Of all people.
And the fact that Dean is like, look me in the eye and tell me that you're not working with Crowley. And Cass holds it for so long and then looks away and Dean's immediately like, son of a bitch. I swear to God. It was such a good scene. The way that they were acting, their facial expressions.
It's such an intimate moment.
Yes.
It's like, especially
for being
voice breaks.
Yeah.
Sorry, what?
His voice breaks.
Yeah. And that was crushing.
And because like it's wild, like those two shows you the chemistry that like Jensen and Misha have, that they're able to like have that moment that feels like they're the only ones in the room, and Sam and Bobby are right there.
They're right there.
But they feel invisible because it feels like it's the only thing that matters is like Dean and Kath looking at each other.
Yep. Electric in the worst way in this episode. They were negative electrons bouncing off of each other.
Chemistry is off the fucking charts.
There was a moment when Castiel is talking to Crowley, I think. No, I know. And it's just before the fire scene. And first of all, Crowley has a portrait of him in a Nazi uniform on the wall. Okay.
I missed that.
In case we needed...
That's not great. Don't love that.
They stop right next to it when they're like walking down the hallway in hell, you know? They like stop and chit chat next to it. And I had seen that picture on Tumblr before, and I was like, okay, so that guy plays a demon, and so of course he's in a Nazi uniform. Makes sense. Okay. I didn't know where it popped up, but here it is. It's in this episode.
Here it is.
It's there. But there was a scene where Crowley mentions, I won't touch a hair on their artfully tousled heads, which shout out to the makeup and wardrobe department of Supernatural. You did great. They are artfully tousled. But immediately after that, Crowley's trying to show Castiel like how Castiel is emotionally compromised, to use a Star Trek. You're emotionally compromised. You can't handle this. And he says, you know what the difference is between you and me? And there's a long pause. And he says, I know what I am. Me sitting here watching it, he said, you know what the difference is between you and me? And my first instinct was, I'm not wearing hockey pads, which is a Batman reference, and it was real bad. And I was like, what are you doing here, Crowley? Like, okay. But it was a great scene. I love every scene between Crowley and Cass this episode.
It is every scene between them.
Like, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but just we would be remiss if we did not mention stench of that Impala is all over your trench coat.
Over your overcoat, sir. Okay.
so like they don't know how to like they don't know how to talk without these like sort of like they like to talk about the way Cass interacts with Dean specifically in like all these metaphors, but all these metaphors are just so intimate.
Immensely so. Immensely so.
And Crowley just knows that, and so he just says the quiet part out loud.
He really does. There were
like
quite a few times when they're walking down the hallway in hell, showing them all the, you know, the people waiting in line, and he says, okay, in the terms of the angels, you've got sex appeal, Cass. And Cass is like, thank you. Anyway, get to the point. Like, he takes that little compliment. He's like, okay, yeah, I get it. He's
like, I get you're flirting with me, but like, we've got business to do.
We've got business.
I'm in a committed relationship, Crowley.
And you know it. You know it.
You noted his stench all over me recently. Like, you know it's...
Well, like, and then we find out that Cass has been like in the year before, like in the year where Dean thought Sam was dead and Dean was living with Lisa, that like Cass was like secretly watching him rake leaves, like watching him in these really domestic moments. And that's really interesting.
Yeah, he checked in.
Almost talked to him.
But not visible, which really clues us into the opening line of our podcast this week, where we were there. Where were you? And Cass was so close. He was so
there. He
close.
was there.
He was there. But he didn't let Dean know he was there.
And so all Dean knows is that like Cass didn't show up. Is that Cass had every opportunity to ask for their help and didn't.
I want to believe in my heart that the moments when Cass shows up when he's invisible still is when somebody silently wishes for Cass to be there. You know, like, oh, I wish Cass was here, but like doesn't vocalize it to the rest of the people in the room and doesn't make a quote unquote prayer.
There's no prayer.
Yeah. And so I think that Dean's raking leaves and he's like, well, wouldn't have to do this if Cass and I had been able to be together. And then Cass hears that and it's like, maybe I can show up here.
That's heartbreaking. That's heartbreaking.
A little bit.
I want to like make sure that we're not coming across in this conversation like I think we can be like kind of critical of Cass's like actions while also being like, oh boy, he is doing the best he can. Like thinking about like that first scene in the park, and he talks about like there's this whole like thing where he's going through his memories of like the beginning of time and the beginning of humanity. He talks about the apocalypse, the most remarkable event,
which involved
not
Dean
coming to pass, which involved Dean.
And then he goes, thousands of years, Dean is involved in his most remarkable moment,
which is wild.
Okay, yeah.
But he goes this point and he's like, the grand story, and we ripped up the ending and the rules and destiny, leaving nothing but freedom and choice. And a lot of that quote gets used a lot in like fan vids and stuff, but it often gets cut off there. And I think what's kind of chilling in this episode is that that's not where that quote ends. He goes, that's all well and good, except what if I've made the wrong choice? Ooh. How am I supposed to know? And I think that's like, this episode is like all Cass' point of view, and Cass trying to grapple with like, how do I know if I've made the right choice?
Yeah. And how do you deal with the fact once you realize that you may have made the wrong choice? How do you handle that afterwards?
Especially when you felt like you didn't have a choice, any choice at all. Like he doesn't feel like he has any choice at all. He feels like, I can't ask Dean for help because I promised Sam that Dean was out of the life. I can't ask Sam and Bobby for help. Like I can't ask them for help either.
Because they're not my boyfriend.
They're like, that's not realistic.
You don't just go to your in-laws and, you know.
Well, and I can't go to them without revealing, like, again, if that gets back to Dean. And then he's like, when I can't just like let Raphael take over because he's going to start the apocalypse. Like Cass feels like painted into a corner, and then he makes these decisions that are like really not great. But it's because he like feels like how am I supposed to know? How did I got free will, but there was no manual for like how free will is supposed to work.
He sort of feels like he's picking the lesser of two evils when he didn't know there was a third choice there, which was just being honest and asking for help. Which I feel
and dealing
like,
with the consequences together.
Exactly. I feel like that relates a lot to human depression and anxiety. And like sometimes you feel like the only option you have is to push yourself even further into whatever corner you feel like you're backed into and whatever problem you're facing. When if you reached out to someone that you trust and know and love and ask for help, like 9 times out of 10, the problem could be solved better with two heads. Like
they can see a third option that maybe Cass can't see.
Exactly. Having a different perspective on your issues or even vocalizing them can often help you reevaluate them and readjust your perception of those events. And I'm not saying that's a perfect solution for every depression episode ever in the world, but if you ever feel it, reach out. That's always better.
Having faith in the people around you that have shown they care about you.
Yes.
Like that's Cass is so afraid of making the wrong choice that he loses his faith. Like he loses his faith before before Dean ever loses his.
He loses his faith in himself and Dean and
Yeah.
Bobby and Sam and the angels in general and
Well,
God.
And the
even.
concept of freedom.
Yeah.
The concept of freedom, like he says at the end, like freedom's a length of rope. Like he's not enamored with freedom anymore the way he was a season ago.
Yeah.
To the mental health point of like, this episode almost could read like a letter that like Cass is writing. And just like, I don't know about y'all, but like for me, like writing letters is always a huge way that I like process really difficult emotions. And so it's kind of like this episode, I think, stands out on so many levels in Supernatural as a whole. And I think that one of that reasons is because people feel directly spoken to and also feel that pain of having been at some point in their life in some sort of situation where they didn't know like what to choose or what to do. And that's what makes this show, you know, worthy of being talked about years after it being off the air. You know, this episode aired like freaking decade and some change ago, and it's still resonates like right now.
It still resonates. This episode, I think that's why, is because like how many of us have been in a situation like Cass's where we're like, I feel trapped by my choices, or I feel trapped by my circumstances, or I feel trapped by like destiny.
And you feel like it's your fault that you've gotten there. You know, like that's the worst part, is that it's like, oh, I made
feel like
these small decisions a long time ago, maybe a year, maybe 6 months, whatever. And it ends up feeling like the entire pressure of the world is on you in that moment.
Freedom is a length of rope, and it feels like the universe or God feels like freedom is only going to destroy you.
Yeah.
And that's a really scary feeling. Like that's a really scary feeling. It's not a true feeling, but it's a really scary feeling.
Yeah.
And like Cass's spirals because of it. And like
all he really needed to do was reach out to the people that loved him, and they could have figured it out, talked it out together, and they could have come up with a solution. It may not have been the best solution, but it would have been a better solution than Cass taking on all the responsibility himself and digging his hole even deeper.
And them being alone in it.
Yes.
You know, like the fact is that like, even if they had ended up at odds, even if he had gone to the Winchesters, said, I think that I should team up with Crowley and try and get to Purgatory.
They could have,
even if they had been
Crowley
like, no,
together.
even if it had blown up in their faces, like Cass wouldn't have been doing this alone.
Yeah.
Well, and that's where it comes back to the line of like, you know, where were you when I needed to hear that? Like he would have been like, it was as soon as he heard it, he saw how simple it was. And that could have happened a year prior.
You can't put the blame on people who you can physically see with your eyes, but you don't make it known that you're there. You can't put the blame on them for not reaching out to you when you were
people are not mind readers.
Like they can't be mind readers. You have to vocalize your feelings and your thoughts sometimes.
Your needs.
Sometimes that fucking hurts, but
sometimes it means a really hard conversation. Like, you know? Like, that would not have been an easy conversation for Cass.
It would not have been. But it would have always worked out for the better for all parties involved.
And you can't, like, where were you when I needed to hear it? How was Dean supposed to know that you needed to hear it? Like, I get that you didn't, but, like, again, you can't have it both ways.
And I feel like at the beginning of the season, Dean mentioned that he prayed to Cass a few times.
Yep, he did.
And Cass didn't show up. So that's partially, like, Dean was reaching out.
And I think it's because Cass is, like, again, to have compassion on Cass here, like, Cass is doing this out of, like, he's like, I didn't reach out because I didn't want to fuck up your retirement, but also I needed you, but also I didn't want to fuck up your retirement. And so then Cass, like, has, like, he just gets in this cycle.
Even worse.
That, like, he, in denying what he wanted, which would have been to be with Dean.
And needed.
Because he thought he was doing something that Dean wanted. He was, in fact, doing the exact opposite of what Dean wanted.
Which is for Cass to be safe and secure.
Well, like, and for Dean, like, Dean never wanted to have retirement at the expense of his family.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, Dean struggles with that.
His family.
And to like go back to like early season 6, I feel like we talked a lot of times about like how much Dean was frustrated at everyone around him for like trying to protect him, but like not actually asking him what he wanted. Like he was mad at Sam for not finding him and Bobby for not telling him and Kath. Like this kind of comes full circle of like everyone spent the end of season 5, the beginning of season 6 trying to like shield Dean, but mostly that just meant isolating him.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is not what Dean's healthy moment is. Like that, his healthy moments are when he has people that he cares about and trusts around him, protecting him if he's aware of of it, but when he's also protecting them back, it's different when he's with the group protecting everybody and isolated, and that keeps him protected because then he feels alone and like he has no other option, just like Cass felt in this episode, and that's not a great feeling for either of them.
He never, like, as much as he didn't want the life to keep taking things from him, he also never really wanted to leave the life at that point, because you see that because he still has, a thing of holy water and a knife right underneath his bed. Like, he's ready to go at any fucking second, because that's the life that he knows, and he knows how to protect people and wants to do that.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a hard episode to watch with emotions,
But such a this episode's like a masterpiece in like storytelling. Like if you wanted to show someone who'd never seen Supernatural like a singular episode to just kind of tell them like the interesting things it does with narrative.
Yeah.
This is a good one. This is a good one because it's so interesting. The framing, the like what they're doing with Cass, and how you slowly get to find out the story.
It
like
balances really well the flashbacks and the current moments and the flashbacks and back and forth. Like it does that really well the whole episode.
And the fact that you don't realize he's praying until the end like just fucks me up every single time.
Yeah.
Well, I think that season 6 gets like, and it's not like undue credit. Like French Mistake is a phenomenal episode, an astounding piece of television. It's great.
Yeah.
But I think that like that gets a lot of the credit for being like the meta episode of the season. But like I really love the different angle of meta that takes place in this episode.
It almost feels like a inner doubt meta, where like at the beginning of the episode he looks directly into the camera and is like, I'm telling you the story. And so the whole episode you're doubting who he's telling this to. Is he telling this to us? Is he telling this to someone else? Is someone standing right behind the camera? I don't know. And then at the end of it it's revealed that like quote unquote we are God. And what?
He's talking to God. He's talking to God, but he's also talking to us, and he's trying to make sense of his story as his story is filtered through the lens of God / the viewer.
And we've never really had Cass address the audience in that kind of way. And
Cass isn't the narrator of the story ever.
This is his first one.
I love about this Cass-centric episode is just, it's such, like you said, it's such a great piece of storytelling, like on its own, that it like I think it's
just give me more of this like Cass in a narrator role, because his perspective is so different than Sam and Dean's.
My ideal episode would be the A plot is a Cass-centric narration story, and the B plot is a Dean narration story of the same timeline.
Yeah.
Like
which I think they did so well to give us both.
Back and forth would be so good.
In that vein.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I feel like I can't read most of them until we get a little bit farther. But
I don't know. Get you there.
Those for several years.
Speaking of, I feel like we've gone a little long in this episode because it's fantastic and top notch.
Yeah.
But I do have a few more notes that I need to make before we get to the close.
Yes, I also do as well. So go for it.
The fact that Destiel thinks that there is a demon counterpart to the icon and legend that is Bobby fucking Singer.
Okay, and that's but this demon counterpart is so funny.
He's so funny, but he's here for 12 seconds and then he's gone. So like this motherfucker cannot compare. You know that Ellsworth did not have the same even remote level of
I thought you were going to have a different reaction
to him. Okay, I love that there's
I thought you were going to have a different reaction to this.
There's
so funny.
that Destiel has the idea of a comparison to Bobby Singer. That's great. I love that. But the fact that he thinks this one demon who connects a bunch of other demons and makes the same type of jokes like, FBI, I sent them. Okay, no. Do you think this demon trusts anybody that he talks to? Do you think that he loves them and cares for them like Bobby does? Not a fucking chance. Swear to God. Bobby has such better connections with Sam, Dean, Ellen, Joe, Rufus, Garth, anybody else, any other hunters that we know.
Also, I love that Garth is thrown in there when
he was mentioned
had
once.
A single one name episode.
Yeah, and I know he's going to come back in later. DJ Qualls, let's go. What's up? Anyway, I know that he cares about every single one of those hunters because whenever one of them dies and he he gets notified of that, he has emotions about it. This demon Ellsworth, he doesn't give a fucking shit about any of these guys. He's just trying to further his own agenda, and he's trying to make sure that he can get whatever he wants to achieve from this. He's not caring about any of these specific demons. If he did, he would know their names. He would know anything about them. He would know their cares and dislikes. He would know their middle names. No, not a chance. Nobody compares to Bobby fucking Singer. I'm sorry, Castiel.
The best TED Talk I've ever seen.
What? We're gonna give this one to you, Noah. That's fair. That's fair. You are 100% correct.
A good dissertation.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm
have.
Sorry.
Oh, please don't apologize for that. I look forward to the next one.
I just love the pure
passion.
Enthusiasm and passion with which you came to it, being like, "That's not my Bobby Singer.
It's not my Bobby Singer. I swear to God, he's better than you."
Meanwhile, my notes just were like, "What a good." I thought it was stupid and funny. What a good bit.
It was a funny bit. I laughed when it came up, and I laughed. Right. And then Cass compared it to Bobby, and I was like, "Oh."
And you were like, "No, don't you do that."
Oh, son, take a step back. Okay.
I'm not calling Bobby Singer son.
No. I was calling Castiel son, the person who's infinitely older than Bobby Singer.
The millennia old
angel.
Angel.
Okay. August, take one of your points because I need to take a second.
I would point out I really, really love the when Castiel goes to heaven, and he talks about going back to this one person's heaven, and it's the Eternal Tuesday of an Autistic Man.
Yes.
And I don't love the tragic element of that story that he reflects on. Don't love that. Don't love that. And what it's saying. What I do really want to point out is Cass is really understood in the fandom to have a lot of autistic traits. Misha Collins has also kind of affirmed that in con questions. There's a lot of interesting analysis to be done of Cass and autism. That's really, really interesting. And to me as an autistic person, it's really interesting. And so I did really like that Cass is in this moment finding sort of peace and tranquility and regulating himself in the Eternal Tuesday of an Autistic Man flying his kite.
It was so beautiful.
It's really lovely, and I just wanted to point that out, that I really enjoy that tier.
No, absolutely. As someone who grew up partially on a camp for children with autism, so many of Cass's quirks and moments and reactions to stuff feel so familiar to me, and the fact that he finds this place to be calm and secure and safe in, it made a lot of sense to me personally, and really validated a lot of my feelings about Castiel and how he processes the world. And it was beautiful, and I feel like he doesn't quite realize the extent of that, but that even adds further to the theories and the realization. And
he doesn't know why that's the heaven that he chose.
Exactly.
He doesn't fully grasp it.
It feels like home.
Yeah. And I do wish that they had phrased it a little bit different. If they had said a man with autism who passed away, because I know that
the extra detail is superfluous and not ableist.
The detail about their death is icky.
Yeah.
Icky.
Phrasing it an autistic man is
well, that one actually I have less issue with, because I think the larger autistic community, that's actually now more considered more of a respectful the identity first language is again, this is not true, and this is autistic people are not a monolith,
obviously,
and people with people who have been diagnosed with autism or who show traits of autism, there's not a monolith, but I think there's a trend, there's a swing towards identity first language and recognizing the power that has, and that it does not, that for a lot of people, person with autism actually feels less respectful, and less understanding of their lived experience. And I would be one of those people where I'm not I don't just have autism as a personality trait. Being autistic affects every part of my life, and is a really having that identity label in the same way that I would use I would say I'm queer as an identity label. Anyway, that's again, that is a super individual, I think, personal feeling.
Maybe the fact that I've mostly interacted with children with autism is
and in a different era too,
that. So
and a different well, and I think children too also don't necessarily have haven't necessarily been able to figure out what that identity labeling looks like for them.
At a younger age, you want to be recognized as a quote unquote person before your disability, and then then as you get older,
And you should
you're like,
always be
hey,
recognized that.
first of all, I'm an autistic man. Like that
And
doesn't
also,
make
first
sense.
of all, that's not a bad thing. You're
It's
not like, you don't need to
Yeah.
separate me from that, because that is a part of my humanity.
Okay, I do.
But I think,
Yeah,
like
there's a lot of that like really awesome reclamation going around, because like I know it's an entirely
reclamation's good
different,
word.
like identity category, but like in terms of like fat liberation, like people just being like, yeah, I'm fat. Like it's a fact of who I am, not an insult. Like this is just a
Right,
descriptor of the type of body that I have, but it doesn't mean anything good or it doesn't mean anything bad. It just means I am.
It's about the stigma you put on the statement.
Yeah. And
Right.
There's a nice
like, don't say it like it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
If you're saying it like a bad thing, it doesn't matter if you say with or not.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter.
Because like if I were to say that, like, yeah, you know, I'm a fat person, and somebody looks at me and goes, oh no, you're not. Like, I'm sorry.
Then that says a lot about
Looking
how
at the
they feel
same
about that.
body that takes up space. Like,
Right.
I didn't say that it was bad. I just said.
Yeah, that says a lot more about you as that person and in the way that they're speaking about you than it does. And I think similarly to like queer identity language and neurodivergency identity language, like very similar things apply.
Damn.
I absolutely love the gamut which this conversation is running.
There's such a spin that I didn't see coming in this episode, but it totally makes sense and perfectly tracks, and I love it.
I also love that we all have like sort of different experiences with this. Like we've all like your experience, Noah, versus my experience versus Elena's experience. Like, you know, I like that we're all able to bring some knowledge and experience to this conversation.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah.
It's very cool.
10 out of 10.
Learning together.
Chaos is how we learn.
Chaos is how we learn. I don't have any more distinct notes. So if you have a note to take us home, Note. Do you have any other notes, Elena?
I think I've gotten to say most of mine.
Okay.
Cool. I've managed to just worm them into conversation.
That's how we do it.
Yeah.
We
that's
worm
how
our
I did
way
most
in.
of mine.
I lied. I have 2 more notes.
Take us home, Noah, and I have 7% on my computer, so I will be grabbing my cord.
That's fine. Totally fine.
After you finish this.
25 seconds. A minute.
Be fine.
The fact that Dean says to Castiel's face, "You're like a brother to me." Castiel has those eye drops and then looks back up and is like, "Okay, yeah, that's fine. Okay."
They're trying so hard to appear
quote unquote normal. Yeah.
Straight.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
brutal.
just like
it was bad.
I will admit that I fully blacked out that quote. I didn't remember that happened in this episode because I've had it happen other times, and every time it happens, I'm like,
it was during the fire circle scene.
Yeah, you just kind of go into like, as a Destiel shipper, you kind of just like
okay, forced heterosexuality.
You like that meme where it's just like, I've never met that man. I'm sorry to this man. Like, but the point I was going to make was about language, and having the right language, and I think that is something that when it comes up with Dean, it's because Dean doesn't have the language for a relationship with a man who's not his father or his
right, that is still incredibly intimate and passionate and like intense.
Yeah, he doesn't have that language.
There's no category for that in his brain.
Yeah, and I just
think being
really
gay is a terrifying prospect to him.
Yeah, like any point of reference that he has for that is not good because of John Winchester's A+ parenting. So like I think it's really interesting to see that in a character who's, by this point, he's like 30 something, like, and he still doesn't have that language.
Mentally, he's like 60 though.
Yeah,
because of the hell
like
time.
60,
yeah, but like I feel like because
like
of
emotionally stunted, he's like 14.
He didn't have good
it's not
emotional
like experiencing
development
time.
Then
yeah, it's not experiencing time in the same way as living like a fulfilling life.
Facts.
Than 40 years just like being tortured
or torturing.
Being tortured. All of it is being tortured.
You're so right. You're so right. That's what's up. Okay. Final point that I've got for this episode. At the very end of the episode, Castiel shows up to talk to Dean in Bobby's house, which they have angel-proofed, which Bobby angel-proofed. And then Castiel has the nerve to say he made a few mistakes. He made some errors here and there, and he got through. The fuck do you mean? Bobby doesn't make errors like that.
Things that Noah has gotten us said about in this episode that I did not see coming.
Yeah. Bobby, if anything, he would have made it so that he wrote everywhere, no angels through, except for Castiel if they want to talk to Dean.
There's a little asterisk next to the no angels
100% believe that's the way it had to work out. Because Bobby knows the most about anybody, about anything. And he's a legend. and an icon, and he wouldn't make mistakes like that, especially if he knew they're trying to avoid a specific angel.
Ooh, here's an alternate theory. Bobby did everything correctly, but
I like it.
prior to this being done, Cass had done something to the house to make it so that any angel proofing wouldn't quite work.
Okay,
Because-
maybe Cass installs something into the Impala and something into Bobby's house because he knows those are the two places that Dean could hide.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I like that, and I respect
Okay,
that
okay.
more.
Like, what do they call it? Like a little Apple tag, but like for allowing your gay friend to show up in places where he's not supposed to be. Like,
Yeah, like exactly like an Apple tag, I guess.
you know,
I think that works.
it's late.
I have a
Except-
meme. I have a meme like it's like percolating, and
It's
I haven't figured out
percolating.
how I'm doing it, but I have a meme percolating for this joke, and it's gonna. I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out.
I will never forgive Castiel for assuming that Bobby was the person that fucked up in this instance. God!
Bobby did what he did intentionally.
He did it intentionally, and you should realize that your boyfriend's dad accepts y'all's relationship, and you shouldn't put the blame on him and assume that he's a bad hunter. Fuck off, Castiel. I'm sorry, but like, this is twice in this episode that you've disrespected Bobby, and I will not stand for it.
This has been the best. Like, defensive of Bobby, Noah is my favorite Noah.
Sorry, I got a little loud. And
No,
You gotta do it. You
don't
gotta do it. I
apologize.
love it. Bobby Defense Squad, always.
That's how I'll be for the next season and a half, maybe. We'll see. Sorry, spoilers. I'm gonna be
For the show Noah hasn't seen.
okay. I'm gonna be so mad when Bobby dies because I know it's gonna happen and I'm not ready for it. And that episode, I just want everyone to know that the only thing we will talk about in that episode is Bobby Singer. Just need that to be on the table.
It'll be the Bobby funeral episode.
I don't
Exactly.
know what you're talking about, Noah. I've
Fuck
never
off,
seen a
Elena.
supernatural.
I
in my
know
life.
you do. I know you do.
What's a supernatural?
Swear to God. Swear to God.
Okay, we're gonna move on before
Sorry.
one of us gives some spoilers. We don't, or someone says there's something they're gonna regret. We're gonna move right along. That is the end of our discussion. But before we go, we have some blessings. Noah, who do you want to bless?
Okay, you want me to go first? I'll go first. It's Bobby. I'm blessing Bobby because Castiel demonstrated such a lack of faith in him in this episode. I'm gonna try to tone it down. Castiel demonstrated such a lack of faith in him in this episode, and I feel like the boys didn't let their faith in him drop at all. Dean almost did for a second when he was doubting how Bobby felt about Cass, but then he realized that Bobby and Sam were right, and he was like, "Oh fuck, okay, shit." So I want to believe that off screen, Dean apologized to both Bobby and Sam about how he was wrong about Cass this episode. But I think that Bobby may have felt a little justified at the end of the episode when he realized that Cass was betraying them. But I know that he didn't feel good about that. You know, he was justified, but he didn't enjoy being justified about it because he knows that his son's boyfriend stabbed his son in the back, and that can't ever feel good.
No.
So I want to do a big shout out to Bobby for the way that he handled both that reveal and him trying to convince his son Dean that maybe your boyfriend's lying to all of us. Maybe. I'm proud of him in this episode. Shout out to Bobby. Blessings to Bobby.
Lovely, lovely. Elena?
I am, to the surprise of no one, blessing Dean because it all comes down to the line, "Son of a bitch."
Ooh.
Voice cracks. Just that moment hurt so bad. Because he really, like, the whole episode, they keep framing these shots of the two of them like staring at one another and being in one another's presence and not knowing the other one is there. And then, you know, Dean doesn't, talking about faith, like Dean keeps the faith in Cass for as long as he physically, humanly can.
Mhm.
And to watch that faith break in that line is just really, really good acting choices and character choice wise.
I like the emphasis on physically, humanly can, because Dean is just a man, and then he's presented with that from Cass. Like, it's gonna hurt extra.
Yeah.
It's a very human moment from my boy.
Yeah, it really is. It's a good blessing.
10 out of 10.
And to use your phrase, take us home, August.
I'm gonna bless the Angel of Thursday, who it really is not his day, Castiel. I want to just commend Cass is trying so hard, and he has come so far as an angel in this, like, the fact that he is grappling with the messiness of free will is so very human of him.
Yeah.
The fact that he's grappling with the, like, consequences of his actions, like most other angels could never and would
Everyone is
never.
so very human in this episode.
And Castiel is, in a lot of ways, is not incredibly human to, like, hide things and be messy and make mistakes and not know who to trust and be trying your very, very best anyways. Like, is that not the most human sort of thing to do? And
Absolutely.
I want to bless Cass for that, even though it's not going super well right now. But yeah, I love this episode.
As much shit as I talked about Cass this episode, I do really respect the choices he made and how he handled it. I get it and I understand. So I love Cass as well.
Yeah. Well, that is going to bring us to the end of this episode. This was everything I wanted to be in this conversation. Thank you both.
It was so much better than I could have ever imagined it to be. It was very good. 10 out of 10 all around. I'm proud of us all.
Yeah, both watching this episode and the recording experience of it felt like coming up. So
yeah, it did. As the best episodes of the podcast always do.
Yeah.
Love to be here with both of you.
I hope that the listeners feel the same way.
They feel the affection of all of us.
Yeah.
Towards all of you.
And the passion. Sometimes the aggression, but mostly the passion. Speaking of passion and aggression, make sure you are subscribed to Saving Things wherever you listen to podcasts and share our show with your friends. You can also join our free Discord server, find links to our socials, and catch up on the latest season mixtapes, all at our website, queeringthingspodcast.com.
And also out now is Queering People Saving Throws. Our main Queering Things crew, along with KJ, are taking a deep dive into a queer D&D adventure, releasing every other Friday right here on our feed. It's chaos. Go listen and enjoy.
It's very fun.
It's chaos and it's so much fun.
So much fun.
Can't emphasize that enough.
Be sure to ride along with us next week as we explore season 6, episode 21, Let It Bleed, through the theme of loneliness.
Thank you all for coming along for the ride, and we wish you a peaceful road until we meet again.